Hi and welcome to day 4 of week 5 of training cycle 2 of 2021. Today was a difficult day. I had good energy coming into the workout, and about halfway through I ran out of steam. I finished everything, but it took increasingly longer in between sets, and I actually was yawning between reps on one occasion during this workout footage today. So if I can remember to tell you guys, we'll see if we can see that. But yeah, squats went good today. I don't think I have enough strength, and maybe not even enough mobility in my hips, and I don't know if I have enough strength and enough strength in my spinal erectors, because I do feel like I'm getting a little bit of butt wink now, and that has to do with me going a bit deeper than I did the last training cycle. I worked on stretching my hips and doing things of that nature, and therefore I'm squatting a little bit deeper. Obviously, I'm going to try to not squat quite as deep towards the end of the training cycle, but I'm not going to deliberately attempt to squat less deep, because that's just going to happen naturally. It usually does. It may not happen though, because I'm already at lifetime PRs on the squats right now, and somehow, some way, I'm not losing that much depth. So we will see what's going to happen with that. Right now I don't really need any form of adjustments with squats. They're slowly coming along, and this back off set that I do 6 days a week with 20 kilos less is getting heavier and heavier and heavier every week in proportion to my squat, to my heaviest squat. So that way we're getting closer and closer and closer in percentages. That way the back off work gets harder and harder, and that way hopefully I'm going to build some muscle so that my daily minimum, my heavy max, will be more manageable as it gets heavier. Alright, look at this. Fail the bench twice, and I decided to call it quits there. As you can see, I can get well past 90 degrees, a 90-degree angle, where my upper arm bone, I have no idea what it's called, and I think it's humerus, but I could be mixing that up with something else. But my upper arm bone is well past parallel to the floor. Historically, parallel to the floor with my upper arm bone has been like the sticking point on the bench press, or about 2 centimeters past that. But at this point, my sticking point is significantly higher up, and that is and where my sticking point is indicative of shoulder and tricep weaknesses. However, my overhead press currently is pretty strong, so I would suspect it's more of a tricep weakness than it is shoulder. But I do believe that building both my shoulders and my triceps would help my bench press at this point. Another thing that I've failed to mention during this whole workout is the last 4 nights of sleep have been 7 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and 6 hours. I've been very tired throughout this whole week. School has started again, and my training program, which has a lot of sets and a lot of shit to do, it's difficult. It's difficult, and it's not like I'm anywhere near giving up or anything like that. I haven't even thought of that, to be honest, at all. It's not that. It's just simply difficult, and like training when you just want to sleep is difficult. Going for a whole school day just wanting to sleep is difficult. Trying to keep focus, and now with online classes you can't just drift away during the lessons, because all these teachers want you to they give you assignments, so you can't just sit like a zombie and just try to survive the day. You have to actually do stuff and use your brain, which obviously that is more difficult than just to inactively sit and exist, which otherwise I'm pretty good at, just doing nothing. That's one of my specialties. Like, instead of using school to recover from training, school is also taking something out of me. But I don't think at this point that school is that difficult, so as it's not difficult enough to use it as an excuse. The only thing that is enough to use as an excuse is sleeping less really makes me it makes everything more difficult. And according to my calculations, I probably lost 1 to 2% of my strength today due to being tired. And 2% of a 95 kilo bench press is, what is that even? It's less than 2 kilos, but it's more than 1 kilo. And that's about as much pressing power as I would need to lock out the first attempt on the bench press today. As you guys saw, I was close, but it just stopped at that sticking point, and it feels like I have a similar sticking point on the overhead press, although for a different reason, and probably it has to do with different muscles. But it's the same concept. I have a very clear sticking point both on the bench press and on the overhead press currently. However, with the training program I'm using, currently adding more volume for specific weak points at this point isn't very viable. So that will only be done if it is absolutely necessary, which it isn't. What is necessary is me sleeping more. Because the reality is, this whole week's pressing exercises have been just anus. Alright, I don't know how if there's a better way to put it. Everything's just been ass. It's been terrible. Last week, I did actually hit both 95 and 65. So 95 kilogram bench press and 65 kilogram seated overhead press. I hit them on the same week. Both were lifetime personal records for me. And that week, I was probably sleeping 9 or 10 hours every single night because it was a holiday. Probably closer to 10. And now, obviously I'm going to sleep more tonight because I started training early in the evening. So I planned today specifically better than usual. But I'm still not going to sleep that much. And the majority of this week, I haven't been sleeping much. I mean, I've been averaging around the 6-hour mark. And that doesn't really work unless you're Arnold. And I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. I'm absolutely not trying to be Arnold. And one thing we often forget is Arnold was on some stuff. That, by the way, guys, androgens, which was what he was on, testosterone, dianabol, much of bullshit that they had in the 70s, that increases your motivation, it increases your drive, it increases your energy, all right? And it increases your recovery. So if you're not on those things, sleeping less doesn't really help you in any way. Even for entrepreneurs, it's very common to think of it as a achievement or as a big thing to sleep little. And it's actually very rare that sleeping less will help you in your life. What it can help with is a short-term, like 1 or 2 week period where you need to get more done than usual and you need to free up more hours during the days. So basically you extend the day further into the night. Alternatively, you wake up earlier in the morning as well. Now, that is a viable option for productivity, short-term. But the thing is, a lot of people think that that's what you should do long term, and they just end up getting just fucked up, and after like 3 months of grinding, as they call it, they're basically dead. And as we all know, it's building a business is like building muscle. Most of the time it doesn't just explode for no reason. Most of the time you have to put in a lot of work for many years, and it isn't sustainable to not sleep enough to adequately rest and recover. Right? Because those are the two things. The body, well, rest and recovery pretty much is the same thing, but really I'm saying to recover and then to grow. So, I mean, yeah, I talked about this yesterday. I don't need to go over it again. But it's basically the point of, first, the body has to recover all the muscles. that have been worked, and then they start adapting after they've been recovered. By the way, look at my calluses. They aren't terrible, they aren't massive, they aren't bleeding. Like, this isn't some weird internet shit where I'm destroying my body, but these hurt a bit, and that's why I think I dropped the 122.5. But obviously that wasn't the only factor there. Of course, if my grip would have been stronger, I could have held on to it better, and it wouldn't have slid down in my hands, and therefore it wouldn't have resulted in pain in my callus. But that's one thing to note, is you have to grab the bar the right way, and you have to have a good callus day. People talk about good hair days and bad hair days. Well, what about good and bad callus days? Today was a bad callus day, I'll tell you that. But I do believe tomorrow probably will be better. So I'm not worried about it. What I'm most worried about right now is the fact that my pressing strength hasn't just been terrible, or not. It hasn't never been terrible, but it's been bad. It's been failures throughout the week. I don't know how many bench presses and how many overhead presses I've failed this week, and me not even knowing, that obviously shows some early warning signs. Also, according to program, bench press weight increases by 2.5 kilos. By Tuesday is the next time I have to try 97.5. I believe that's what it says in my notebook, in my program that I wrote. And the only way to do that right now, to make that a reality, is to sleep more and to eat more. That's really the only two things that are going to help. I can't take rest days. Rest days aren't really a part of this program. This program is built upon not having rest days. That's the whole point of it. The point of it is to have a high frequency, high intensity, low volume. Now, obviously, I've added volume, but my volume still isn't insane. It's still fairly low. All things considered, none of my muscles are getting more than, I don't know how many sets a week, but probably my lower back, maybe my glutes are two muscles that get the most work right now. But none of my muscles get completely destroyed as of this moment, and it's more an issue of recovery and taking care of myself. Because, like, if I was in prison right now with these weights, and all I did was sleep, eat, and train, slept, ate, and trained, I would have zero problem recovering on the program that I'm doing right now. I mean, just being able to just eat food and sleep the whole day, and just be a complete lazy, piece of shit, and then just train for my 2 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day, whatever it is, with the jump rope and everything that comes after, and the stretching. Like, I feel like this program would be a lot easier to follow if I had a better life circumstances. But again, but I'm actually not really feeling sorry for myself at this point. I feel pretty good mentally, because it does take a very long amount of time. Unless someone's going for a lot of shit, it takes a long time to break someone, or to at least weaken them. And at this moment, I'm pretty far from both. So I don't really see psychological difficulties being an issue for the next several weeks. I think it's just a case of putting in the right amount of work when it comes to putting the phone away, not doing anything entertaining, just finishing school, training, and going to bed, eating as well. But it really comes down to discipline, and that's the only way I'm going to get my bench press up right now, and that's the only way I'm going to get to 100 in about a month or so, is going to be serious consistency with sleeping a lot, because the fact is, right now, I'm past my lifetime PRs on everything, as of, not a long time ago. Everything is hitting new heights, new levels. I'm leveling up, but every single muscle right now is beyond what it's ever been, for the most part, or will be within the next week. And obviously that takes a toll on your body, because this isn't just muscle memory anymore. This is a case of legitimately going beyond where I've ever been? Good mornings. What I can say about these, 40 kilos didn't feel that heavy, but I didn't really get in the correct groove until the final set, which the first set was probably the worst, second set was better, third set was, yeah, you can see me shaking my head there. That was just... Yeah, good mornings are a difficult exercise to learn. I've said this before. I'd say the power clean probably is more difficult to learn. Like, I can't even do proper power cleans like an Olympic weightlifter would. Then again, I'm not an Olympic weightlifter, but... Yeah, the good mornings is difficult because it's a hip hinge, but you have the bar on your back. And to a guy who's been squatting a lot, it's kind of a weird movement. Now, a lot of people bend strictly at the hip, keep straight knees, and let their center of gravity drift past their toes. And when you do that, you can't really lift any appreciable weight. So that way, you won't really be developing certain aspects of your hamstrings, of your glutes the same way. You won't be working hip extension to the same extent, although you might be working your lower back a lot. The difficulty in this exercise is finding the right range of motion. That is the most difficult thing. As you can see there, I went too deep, and there as well. That's when the back starts to round, and then you get like a very ugly, that one was better, right? It's about hitting the hip hinge pattern, stretching the hamstrings, keeping the bar somewhat close to being over the midfoot. It's about pushing the hips back and keeping the chest up. Those are things that I really should think about. I don't know if I thought about them today during the workout. Probably not a lot. I'm more focused on filling my lungs with air, filling my belly with air, which that does help because that gives like a kind of a natural stop. I don't believe my belly is big enough to hit my thighs or anything, but I just feel like I get like a... There, see, that was a good one. And that one too. That one, I think so, boom, right? Because that one wasn't as good. It's about that one was worse, that one was better, right? It's about having that tightness. That one was a bit worse. I think you guys understand now. And really putting a stretch on the hamstrings, stretch on the glutes, and snapping back up. It's like a Romanian deadlift, but with a bar on your back, and it's a bit difficult to learn. Goodbye.